So Tesla earnings came out yesterday and they missed on revenues, they missed on earnings per share, and they had a huge beat on the free cash flow. Now, the question of the day is Tesla a huge buy at $400 after these earnings, or did this change anything? Now, I'm going to give you a little spoiler here. As always, I'm not going to hold you hostage, and that means you don't have to click nothing, smash nothing, nor buy nothing. So I'm going to give you away the bottom line first, which is that Tesla is going to at least triple from here quite easily, and it's going to make a lot of people very wealthy as long as such people are patient enough. Okay, now if you have a few minutes, I suggest you stay because I have a lot to cover given what we've seen and heard yesterday from the earnings and given what the general sentiment in the market is right now. Now, here's the thing. Currently trading at $400, Tesla is not a cheap stock. I get it, but let's kind of segregate it to the bad and the good, right? Obviously, we have the bad. We can't ignore it. The automotive revenues are declining year over year for the first time, right? We have a massive PE of 170, which is not something that we should absolutely ignore. I get it. And we have margins decline. Okay, I get it, right? That means that the company is expensive. That means that the Chinese competitors are basically gaining ground on Tesla, which is something you can see in the margins decline and the revenue decline. And obviously, that's not a good thing for Tesla. But then again, there's also the flip side of this whole story, which is that a lot of investors, especially value investors, especially certain type of analysts, they completely misunderstand Tesla, and they failed to do so over the past 5 years, even though it was crystal clear what Tesla is and what Tesla isn't. Now, I'm going to share a little conversation I had with you, and that conversation happened in Bangkok. And no, it was completely PG-13. I met up with my good buddy Warren Ridlick, and he told me, look, if you take a look at the street here in Bangkok, there's lots of EVs and barely any Teslas. It's all Chinese. It's all BYD and other competitors. And I'm not at the least bit concerned about Tesla. In fact, I think Tesla is going to 10x from here. And I said, well, Warren, do you mind elaborating on that thesis a little bit? Even though I knew what he's going to say. And he's going to say, of course, what I've been saying for years, which is the value of Tesla is not really in the vehicles. If you've invested in Tesla because you think Tesla can manufacture cheaper vehicles than the Chinese manufacturers, well, that's not a smart decision. I mean, obviously, Tesla is not going to compete in producing vehicles versus the Chinese. They're going to make it cheaper. The quality is going to be maybe a little bit worse, but nevertheless, they're going to sell a lot of units. Tesla cannot compete in that game, and it's not really interested in doing so. Elon has a master plan for this company, which does not include Tesla outselling physical vehicles and BYD and other Chinese manufacturers. It's impossible. It can't be done. It's like the ambitious goal of Gorbachev to reform Russia and make it a democracy and a capitalist country. Obviously, that had no chance. I mean, this thing has even less chance of Gorbachev's endeavor back in the USSR. Now, there was also a lot of good in this earnings call if you pay attention and if you understand Tesla and if you have a little bit of an open mind, right? Obviously, it's very easy to look at the automotive revenues and the gross margin and the operating margin and look at all these things and say, well, Tesla as a car company is not doing so well. The thing is, as a huge Tesla bull, as you heard in the beginning, I'm not in disagreement with you. I think Tesla is not a really great car company. The car company aspect of Tesla is just there to deliver free cash flow so that Tesla can actually grow. It's designed to deliver revenues, to gather data in order to develop FSD. It has a lot of different uses, but the automotive business of Tesla is a stepping stone, right? Now let's talk about what's next. Number one, the best parts for me from this earnings call was the fact that Elon has gotten really good at speaking to investors and speaking to Wall Street. I think it was one of his best calls ever. And he seemed to go from being the self-saboteur, essentially sabotaging his own calls in the past, to actually delivering some stellar earnings calls. I'm having a tough time to decide who's gotten better at earnings call over the past 3 years. Is it Palantir or Tesla? And I think it's pretty much an even race at this point. And Elon delivered one of the best calls. His call etiquette was absolutely superb. So I'm enjoying seeing that happen, that evolution. But what's more interesting with Tesla is the fact that the FSD potential for Tesla is completely misunderstood, and Tesla is radically unrivaled as far as a FSD provider for large OEMs around the world, such as VW or Toyota or Stellantis. The thing is, people talk about competitors with FSD, and of course, there's different endeavors by different companies to develop some sort of an FSD, but it's basically a horse baloney. You need vast amounts of miles and data and software, which none of them have. And the thing is, with Tesla, if you look at it, there's two ways in which FSD can be monetized by Tesla, right? The one way, which is what Waymo is trying to do, is to essentially build a fleet of AI-driven vehicles that drive based on this FSD and generate cash flow for Tesla directly, essentially the robotaxi network, right? And in that sense, Waymo is potentially a competitor, but not even then, because Tesla has more miles, better software, but most importantly, it's a cheaper model to operate. Waymo's capital expenditure per vehicle is massive compared to Tesla's. Tesla's is basically a regular vehicle with a few cameras. The contraption that goes on every Waymo vehicles, it just makes it economically not viable as a robotaxi network. It's a nice gadget. It's a nice gimmick. It's never going to be a robotaxi network. It's just too darn expensive, right? The problem for Waymo and such gets even worse as far as can it be sold and licensed to other OEMs such as VW, Toyota, and Stellantis. Can it be sold by Tesla as a software solution to have a ready-made, plug-and-play, full self-driving, autonomous driving solution for their vehicles without installing anything in those vehicles except a few cameras? No LiDARs, no nothing, right? Obviously, Waymo is out of the game. Obviously, there's nobody in the game. There's not even a close second to that, right? There's other companies who are building products based on LiDAR, but then again, they don't have the miles that Tesla has and generates every single day. Tesla has a huge lead in FSD, and that lead is growing every day by the vast amount of miles it's generating compared to the others. Nobody's going to catch up. So Tesla is en route to create a monopoly as a provider of autonomous driving solutions, software solutions, to pretty much every manufacturer in the world, which by this time in 5 years is going to be a standard in every vehicle, and Tesla is going to be the sole provider of that at an 80% gross margin. At the very least, that is the trillion-dollar business. And I'm saying this carefully, at the very least. And in fact, I think it might be quite a lot higher than that, right? On top of that, I think if you look at what is the biggest kind of next trend in our economy, our universe, our reality, that's humanoid robotics, right? Humanoid robotics fueled with AI and potentially AGI, that is the next phase of the industrial revolution that we're going through. Right now, we're going through the AI phase. The humanoid robots are coming. It's inevitable. And whoever wins that battle, that's going to be way, 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 way higher than the current valuation of Tesla. I'm just going to be gentle here. If Tesla delivers 1/10 of what Elon has promised in this call with humanoid robotics, that is a trillion-dollar business as well. And I think that Tesla has a huge lead in that, despite people mocking and making fun of it. But then again, there's nobody out there with the amount of experience and also the amount of ability to deploy and actually train these robots in real-life manufacturing procedures like they do in the Tesla factories. So that's a trillion-dollar business as well. And I think that Tesla is way ahead in that as well. On top of that, we already have a third line of business that is in itself a trillion-dollar business in construction. Now, that business is growing 100% per year for a couple of years now. This time, it grew another 113% in revenues. And now that's a serious deal. That's the energy. The energy business is currently 10% of the entire revenue of Tesla. 10%. That's double from just a couple of years ago. And it's only going to get bigger and bigger. Energy deployments are up 244% year over year for Tesla. The revenue is only up 113%, but I understand why. Deployments and revenues don't always match. But you can see the fact that Tesla in megapacks have become the industry standard. They are the sole provider, again, a quasi-monopoly, so to speak, in that environment as well. So you have three separate trillion-dollar business each that have nothing to do with selling vehicles for Tesla. And you have a currently trading at $1.24 trillion, which means that even though Elon Musk might be polarizing and might be insufferable for certain folks. That's fine. If Tesla can execute on these three industries, we're talking about 3x from here without even talking about vehicles. So are we really having this discussion? Now, the crazy part about this is that Tesla is still somehow in 2025 is still the most misunderstood company in the world, with the exception of perhaps Palantir, right? By the way, both companies I'm invested in for the same reason, which is complete misunderstanding by most of the market and so-called experts. Now, with Tesla, it's literally a startup that is currently publicly traded and being treated by most analysts and so-called experts as a vehicle producer. That's insane. Now, they're going to miss out on it like they did over the past few years. We'll talk about that in a second. And it's going to be their problem. I don't mind. Now, here's the thing about Tesla. And that principle has never changed from day one. Tesla has always been great at rewarding long-term investors and punishing the short-term speculators. In Russia, back in the 90s, we used to call them speculanti. If you're going to speculate and trade and try to do these short-term gains with Tesla, it's going to whoop your butt. But if you're going to go long-term, it will always reward you. And it had. It did. It was. What was. Look at what happened with Tesla. If you held it for 1 year, you're up 100%. If you held it for the past 5 years, you're up 800%. And if you held it for the past 10 years, you're up 2,400%. A company with the top 3 CEO in the world that has done nothing but reward long-term shareholders, that is sitting in pole position on the 3 biggest industries that are coming, the 3 biggest secular tailwinds that are coming. Tesla's in the pole position. A couple of them they're pretty much monopolizing. And the negative sentiment is keeping the share price down. What could be better? But that's just my 2 cents. It's not financial advice. I'm not recommending you buy or sell Tesla. It's your decision. I'm just a guy on the internet. But nevertheless, here's the thing. If you want to get better at analyzing companies, at understanding Tesla, if you want to be a part of the group that saw Tesla for what it is for the past 5 years and have made a lot of money while all the other headless chickens were warning you not to touch this, if you want to be that crowd that did 800% of the past 5 years because you saw this early, you have to learn the skills. You have to be able to understand how to analyze companies, how to analyze businesses before you do all this fancy schmancy buying and selling. If you want to get better at this, really, this is your last chance for a while to join my academy. Patreon.com/Tom Nash. On February 1st, which is less than 24 hours, the academy is going to be suspended for an indefinite amount of time. We just had the membership go from 5,000 to 10,000 members within a couple of weeks. It's just too fast, so I don't want to shut it down right away. So as of February 1st, we're going to suspend new memberships for a while. I don't know how long. So if you want to get in, this is your last chance, last 24 hours. We'd love to see you there. And most importantly, if you join and you don't like it, I'm going to refund you within 30 days. No questions asked. I mean, I don't hold anybody hostage. So come along, say hello, try it out. And if it's not for you, you can go. If it is for you, welcome to stay. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.